This is the final tournament of the season, and of course, I get hit with high ping. Whether you're watching this in the new season or right now, these tips and gameplay will be applicable because I'm going to walk you guys through some kills, deaths, fights, and even a win I took and how I maneuvered around them with high ping. So game 1, I hadn't even realized I had higher ping than usual because I had a teammate who was on low ping. So tip number 1 is play with a teammate who's on lower ping so you aren't both clunking around like you're wearing ski boots. And big shout out to my duo because he did well. And I'll have some solo tips too, but in duos tourneys, this will just help your odds. Usually I'm around 25 to 35 ping, but this tournament for some reason I was hitting 50 to high 60s, maybe even 70s at some point. So as a higher ping player this tourney, I was hanging back and getting tag damage and pressuring walls for my lower ping duo to push. And that needs to be your role as a high ping player. Apply pressure, but don't get up close and personal unless you need to. Which brings me to point 2, you have to get up close and personal in solos because you have to fill every role. So this game, my duo went down and I had to solo clutch. I was clocking in at a solid 55 to 60 ping and I had to make something work. I start the fight with a big shot while he was distracted, putting me in the advantage. So if you can surprise someone at any time, do it. But now I'm on the offensive, and usually this is a weird position to be in because you can't take walls or pressure super efficiently, but this is how I managed around that. You want to make players nervous when fighting you. This applies to everyone, but especially people on high ping, so the enemy makes mistakes, wastes mats, and you can get your opportunity. The player I was fighting took high ground, and I didn't want to do some fancy high ground retake given my ping, and I had low mats. You know, I didn't want to place a stair to cover me, and it places half a second later after I died. So I worked on getting the player I was fighting nervous. I threw down a crash pad, making him think I was gonna jump up, but this was just an option and I was considering it, but I wanted to see how he'd react. Of course, he built over where I put it down, wasting some more mats, and I got into his head. Now he knows I have crash pads to take height whenever I want, and he also knows my duo is still alive, but down. Because of this, he actually dropped off height since he knew he couldn't hold it and went to my teammate. Because of good comms, I was able to get back to my duo and kill him before he could get the finish. But the thing I really want to emphasize is playing within buildings and structures and not feeling the need to build your own a bunch. Building a lot will have a delay between each move and edit, which is fine, you can still be mechanical, but the second an enemy tries to contest a piece you're trying to build on, they'll get it every time and you'll be stuck trying to edit. So instead, focus on movement, pressuring, making them nervous, and predicting where they'll go next. Which leads me to my next point. You need to be really careful and methodical when placing builds. Going slow might get you killed, but going too fast and missing builds will get you killed. This is a game where we finished up a fight and instantly got third party. My goal here was to make space and I got killed, but why? When I edit open my wall, I always place a cone above and below and then wrap with walls and finish with floors if I need to. But this time, my game didn't register the cones since I was unfamiliar with the timing on the higher ping. And by the time I had run out of my box, I had to instantly correct with a floor just to stop myself from falling, which meant I had no cover above me and I got hit hard, then shot out. You can see me try and start the walls after I thought I put the cones down, but since there weren't any, it didn't register. And this was the first build fight I was in this tournament, and I was wildly curious what just happened. I then saw that I was on 60 ping and realized I would need to adjust my playstyle for the rest of the tournament. So always be monitoring this and adjust your playstyle accordingly. There's this weird misconception among the community that you're an X ping player, like it's a trait and doesn't change. You're a 0 ping player, or you're a 60 ping player, when as a matter of fact, it changes day to day, tournament to tournament, creative to regular, and you need to be monitoring this. And I'm not talking about how it's obviously changing every millisecond, I'm talking about the greater range can jump up 10, 15, 20 between game modes or between days. So know how to play differently, and don't be doing the same moves on 60 that you'd be doing on 30 or 40. But if yours is pretty static, you know there's not high or low days for you or high or low times in the day for you, then here's what you should be doing if you have a consistently high ping. You need to be preventative and predictive rather than reactive. Don't wait for an enemy to take your wall to edit the cone up and make a new box. Have multiple cones aligned and ready to go when you get pushed. This way, if they chase you through your builds, you can get counter damage. A lot of high ping playing is getting this counter damage since you can't take walls or consistently pressure in box fights, but if they're chasing you, you can always get that damage. The next tip for tournament play is carry a sniper. I know this might be obvious, and if you're watching this in the next season, there might not be a sniper, sniper, but carry whatever the high damage equivalent is. Kills and damage matter so much more in tournaments because of the point system in Storm Surge. So carry a sniper or a high damage replacement. You can get easy kills without needing to engage in a wonky build fight, and I know this is obvious, but really think it through. A lot of high ping players prioritize a bunch of meds since they know they'll be taking a bunch of damage, but I think it's more important to have that get out of jail free card and something to get big damage in first, so you don't have keyers taking your wall the whole time and pressuring you with 200. If you hit them big, they won't push. So following that big snipe in this game was this. Again, be predictive. I saw my teammate was pressuring the front side of this guy, so I got up behind him to try and sandwich him, but lucky for me, he walked straight into my box. I didn't intend for this to happen, but I was ready for it since I knew I was blocking off his angles. And in instances like this, you don't need to engage in another wonky build fight. So if you have the advantage, get into their box or cut off their angles so they walk into yours. In solos, this could be having the health advantage, so you phase into their box, or in duos like this, we had the player advantage and he walked into my box. And just to go off of that, in solo situations, you need to have your phase tricks mastered. You can't take walls, so you need to know how to get inside of a box to end the fight. My favorites are the stair phase, the momentum phase, both sideways and down onto them. And since this is a tournament video, let me show you the one we win and how you need to be playing these situations, whether it's a victory cup or something else. And lastly, I do want to preface, I will be talking through this game and how we win it, which includes the movements we make, the rotates, when we take height, etc. So those are all a more general way to play Fortnite. There won't be specific high ping tips in it, rather how we play to win smartly on high ping. Before I show you this glorious win, please like the video and invest into the channel for more. We started on low ground with a team above us, and we then coordinated to push. This was a full-on build fight, and at times got pretty dodgy, especially with the ping that I was at, but in the end, my duo got some nice kills, and we had height. But we instantly got knocked out and fell back to the ground. Although this wasn't an awful place to be in since we still had the hill advantage and we're in next zone. And this is what I'm talking about when you want to be predictive to the fights. We're still in zone, we still have high ground, and other people have to push to us. Even with high ping, I can still hit shots on players and contest with my own builds, protecting what I have instead of needing to push someone else who will have the advantage on building on any piece that I try to. The match progresses a bit more and me and my duo have to rotate. Zone is right behind us, and again, this is a good spot to be. Unless you're caught up and focused, being right next to zone is really good because sometimes a lot of people don't look right there. Everyone is caught up in the big build fight, so being on the edge of zone is actually not a bad place to be. Of course, since we were trying to come back from our deficit, we do push up onto the build structure and get involved, but of course it's instantly consumed by zone, so we have to leave that too. We had died in early game a couple times during this tournament, so we were trying to get as many kills as possible and win this game. There were players all around us. Some of the players who were in the build fight had fallen down and boxed up right behind us, and the other players were scattered around. We knew we had to make a move, whether that was rotate to next zone or take height right now. We wanted to see what the players around us were gonna do before making our decision, and that's when they rotated. We got a couple tags in and decided now was our time to take height. We had the mats to do it and the confidence. What was even better is this zone was pulling to another mountainside right over a valley. We obviously started on a mountain, so we just needed to build straight across the valley to get to the other side, so we didn't have a huge risk of taking fall damage, especially since we both had grapple hooks. At this point, the other players start to get on top of the other side of that valley, so we do decide to go up a couple more layers. I'm out of hard mats, so I'm now building in wood, and I'm double layering. This is a quick tip for you guys. If you have hard mats, it's best to single layer since it has a lot of health, but if you're just on wood, start to double layer. An opponent then built up right below me, and I was able to kill him and get a small refresh. That set us up for the rest of this game. There was one opponent left, and he was boxing up in metal, and even though I was on high ping, I was in front of my teammate, so I jumped down onto him to start pressuring, but before I could, my teammate gets the kill from behind. So I want to make it clear that you don't need to be doing these crazy battles, learning how to build fight aggressively on high ping. Rather, just play smartly like we did here, and the win factor won't even come down to a ping-based action. We won because we played height, looked for kills and tags, and that was that. It never came down to whose wall placed first, who edited first, etc. We just won because we played smart. And on that note, if you find yourself getting W keyed a lot because you're on high ping, you need to start capitalizing on the greed of these players. A weak player doesn't mean a defenseless player, and you need to make the enemy know that. This video right here shows you the exact tips you need to add to your game to capitalize on that greed. Use code reidtheninja, it would help a lot. I am still a small YouTuber and invest into the channel. Thank you for watching. I'm signing off.